My name is Ren Takahashi. I was born in Setagaya, Tokyo in 1994. I live in a narrow one-room apartment in Katu Ward, 6 floors up. My window faces the expressway. It feels like an unblinking eye. I work nights at a data center in Area 8. The aisles are quiet. The machines purr. They purr like cats that hate you. I get home just before dawn. The city feels drained, like a bathtub that didn't empty. Things cling to the porcelain. I need you to keep listening. Saying this out loud keeps me together, because every night, there is a woman at the foot of my bed. Her hair is long and black. It hangs like a wet sheet. Her face looks wrong, like a damaged mask. The features are guessed more than seen. The contours too smooth, too wrong, as if someone wiped the real face away, as if a new one was pressed in with flat fingers. At first she was far away. I told myself it was sleep grit, a smear of shadow, maybe where the laundry rack used to be. I buried my head and whispered, "Ren, you're tired. You're just tired." Tokyo grinds. Tokyo hums, and you hum with it, until the hum becomes a throat note that never stops. But she's getting closer. I measure it now. I keep a carpenter's pencil by the bed. Every dawn, I mark the floor where her toes stood. The first mark was a joke. The second was a dare. The third ended the jokes. By 14, the marks were a ladder with no rungs, only falling. Do you know how thin 6 centimeters is? That's how much the night can steal. I told no one. Born in Tokyo means you hold the scream inside your teeth. You hold it like a coin you're too polite to spend. One night I forced my eyes to stay open. I boiled instant coffee to sludge. I drank it. I sat with my back on the wall. I counted breaths until my throat felt like sandpaper. I set my phone to time-lapse, propped it facing the bed. The lens stared like a nervous pupil. I turned on the salt lamp. It makes everything look like a tender wound. And I waited. I don't remember when waiting became watching, but I remember the first flicker. It was not movement. It was absence. A smear where the world failed to render. And in that smear, hair, black, long, clumped like it had been in rain, hanging straight down, never swaying, not even when a draft came from the expressway gaps. Then I saw a cheek, thumb pushed, dragged downward, shining like wet clay. I told myself not to blink, but the body chooses itself over courage. And in that blink she stepped closer, just a step, maybe the length of a foot, maybe less. The bed frame scraped, like something hooked a nail into the metal teeth. That's the sound I think of with her, metal teeth, and my heartbeat. I lasted until my eyes burned. Then I woke at noon. My phone was dead. Sweat dried on my chest like a spiderweb, and there was a new pencil mark. Closer. The time-lapse played back, and what I saw was not a fall, not a walk. It was a smear that thickened into a silhouette. Hours crawled. The hair stayed vertical, as if a hand held it. The face stayed turned toward the bed, toward me like a compass needle. And then the camera fried. The last frame showed hair like seaweed on glass. A strip of cheek peeled from the jaw. Underneath, a wet pale muscle flicking on bone. The phone never turned on again. I bought a new one. It died at 3:07 a.m. I bought another. It died too, so I salted my door. I wrote sutras on masking tape. I stuck them above the threshold. My grandmother did that when I was small, back in Setagaya, when I had fevers, when I dreamed of rooms full of ankles. I went to a shrine I don't believe in. I bowed 4 times because I forgot the count. The priest looked at me like I'd brought him a stray dog. A dog that wasn't mine. I didn't tell him the dog was in my room. I didn't tell anyone. I'm telling you now. Because last night, her hair brushed my toes. I can describe smells now. At first, nothing. Then mop water left too long. Then subway breaks on a wet day. Then raw meat for hot pot. A bright iron drip. Last night smelled like the Shinanam drainage canal when the tide backs up. A smell like old teeth. I pulled my feet back, but something clung. Threads. I sat up and the threads held. Hair twined around my fingers. It felt like eel skin, cold enough to burn. I yanked. It came away with the sound of a bandage A little skin came off too, just enough to bead and shine. I boiled water to clean it, but I couldn't find the antiseptic. I wouldn't open the bathroom cabinet. I don't like mirrors anymore. Sleep is where she learned the route to my bed frame. I thought staying awake would save me, but what if I sleep and something else stands? What if my body walks and I stay behind, like a coat left on a chair? 2 mornings ago there were prints on the floor. Crescent shapes, toe tips only. Quiet feet. They ran from the door to the bed. I live alone. My shoes were by the door. The soles were dry. The mud wasn't mud. It was darker, glossy, like soy sauce left overnight. The edges congealed. I touched it. It stretched into a thread. It snapped. It slapped my fingertip like a slug's tongue. It smelled like the fish market before dawn. It smelled like hunger, older than language. I wiped it up, tied the cloth in a bag, 3 knots. Duct tape. I am civilized. I pay ward taxes. I threw the bag down the chute. It hit the sides 7 times. It should have been 3. That night, I made a rice circle on the floor. Salt and rice above the door. A red thread across the foot of the bed. Bells tied to the thread. Bells tied to my toes. And a kitchen knife under the pillow. I slept. I dreamed. I dreamed I woke up. I heard a sound like rain, but it wasn't rain. It was hair rubbing against hair. 1,000 strands. Paper being kissed. She was there. Her scalp too smooth. No line where skin meets hair. Skin turned into hair. Like water turning to ice. Not follicles. Not growth. Skin stretched into filament, braided to a gloss. Still alive. Each strand had pores. Clear fluid beaded at the tips. Her eyebrows were 2 thick ropes. Her cheeks too flat, too smooth. And then I saw the mouth. A seam of lips that never met. Below it the jaw sank inward, scooped out. A polished surface that wasn't bone. In it, I saw a reflection of the room. The seam never opened, but I heard a voice. Closer, closer, Ren. It sounded like my mother. Soft, tired, kind in a way that makes cruelty possible. I sat up. The bells chimed. She didn't move. The bells chimed again. My toes moved, flexing, like a puppet testing its strings. I grabbed my ankles and felt another hand, my own hand, but colder, slick, like it was under the skin. I woke with crescent marks on my ankles, the bells braided around my toes, the knife lying bare by my ear, and a new pencil mark. Closer. When I was 5, in Setagaya, I went missing for 3 hours. My mother found me in a neighbor's shed, my pockets full of hair clippings, my hair neatly coiled. A mirror leaned against the wall. A crack split my face in 2. I don't remember cutting my hair. I remember rust, wet wood, and a whisper like moth wings. Closer. My mother slapped me. Then she held me until I thought we were one person. We moved apartments a month later. She taped paper over the mirrors. She said, "In Tokyo you must learn what to look at, and what not to look at." Now I look in my bathroom mirror. When I can force myself, there's a mistake in the corner where the silver is thin. The mistake has hair in it. Long black hair that isn't mine. I keep my scalp shaved. Ever since the shed. Ever since the night I cut it all off with kitchen scissors. I cried when it made the soft brush sound. The mistake twitches when I brush my teeth. It creeps when I spit. It waits, patient. Last night I went to work. I gave up on sleep. I hid in server fan white noise. I took the Yurikamome train. The carriage felt like a hospital corridor after discharge. People hovered near their bodies like balloons tied with string. I stared into the black window and saw her standing behind me in the reflection, but in the real carriage, no one was there. Long hair, a face like a rubbed coin, and in the reflection her hair tilted forward, against gravity, closer. I stayed until my supervisor sent me home. He said I was breathing like a dog that chased the wrong car. I walked Odeba's empty malls, shuttered shops, plastic food turning dusty, reflections stretched across chrome pillars, hair too long, faces too thin. I bought a disposable camera. I didn't trust phones anymore. I took photos of the heavy corners, places where the air felt too dense. I didn't develop them. I already knew what they'd show. Closer. At dawn, I went home. My body remembered the bed the way a plant remembers the sun, even if the sun burns. I lay down and slept. I woke to weight on my shins. Not heavy, insistent. Her hair? It had already reached my knees. The hair stitched itself into the blanket, pulling tight, creaking like rope against wood. I tried to move my legs, but the strands only tightened, drawing me further in. I sank my hands down, desperate, and felt them disappear up to the wrists. It was alive, wet, moving, not snakes, not bugs, fingers, too many fingers. Each strand ended in a nail, sharp and cold, and they began to crawl up my arms with a tenderness that mocked me, like a massage just before the sting of an injection. And then the voice came, closer, Ren. Footsteps followed, soft but real, in the hallway outside. My building doesn't talk, but someone had stopped at my door. The chain rattled once, as though it were being tested, as though something were learning exactly what it needed to know. The hair loosened, just enough. I tore myself free, stumbling, crawling toward the door. The peephole should have saved me, but when I pressed my eye against it, I saw nothing of the hall, only hair, pressed against the inside of the glass, stuffed into the lens, plugging it like meat in a drain. I backed away too fast, hit the table, cut my hip. I didn't even feel it. At 3:07, the bathroom light clicked on. It always does. Always at 3:07. No one had gone inside, yet the humming filled the air, electric, steady. Beneath it, I heard the faint, constant rub of hair against tile, like rain on a window. I cut the red thread, tore down the bells, and walked to the bathroom. The door felt wet beneath my hand, and when I pulled it back, my palm smelled of pennies and boiled bones. Inside, the mirror was bare, had torn the paper off earlier. In its surface, I saw her, standing at the foot of my bed, closer now, her hair spilling like a flood across the floor. And there, beside her, was me, my reflection, older, long hair soaking down my chest, straight, black, motionless. The reflection smiled, wide, ear to ear. My real face did not, and then I understood. She wasn't the one moving closer to me. I was the one moving closer to her. The pencil marks on the walls, the strange scrawls, they had been mine all along. The mirror filled, hair poured out of it like water from a shattered bucket, cold enough to burn. It wrapped around my wrists, my throat, pulling tight. But it didn't drag me in. No, it dragged my reflection out. Its hand slammed against the glass like fish flopping against tile. Its lips moved, shaping a word I couldn't hear. I bit down on the strands, tore them apart, spat them out with blood and spit. I swung the knife hilt against the glass. A crack split the mirror top to bottom. The world tilted. My reflection's mouth split wider, opening into a seam. The polished thing grinned. More hair poured through. I ran. I didn't look at the bed, didn't look at the marks on the walls. The chain on the door wasn't latched. I know I latched it, but it hung loose. I flung the door open. The hallway wasn't right. Distances bent and shifted. Hair dripped down the walls, sliding in long, wet strands that spread across the floor. My neighbor stepped out into the hall, the man who wore sandals in winter, the one with the cuff left that rattled like broken glass. He raised his hand in a casual wave, then he froze, and then he ran. The hair was faster. It lashed out, stuck to his legs, and nails punched into his skin. His scream echoed sharp and raw. I slammed my door, threw the chain across, and leaned my head against the wood, breath shaking. In the hallway, someone was running in place, footsteps thudding like a puppet tugged on strings. I went back to the bed and sat down. The hair stirred. It lifted and swayed for the first time, shifting, not with any draft, but with breath because something beneath it was alive. Her face tilted toward me. She didn't move closer. I did, inch by inch, sliding forward across the floor. Closer, Ren. And then she spoke again, not just my name this time, but more my birthplace, my old nickname, the one I hadn't heard since Chiba, when the police showed us only a suitcase and a belt buckle. My teeth ached as I slid until my shins touched the curtain of her hair. She lifted her face. The seam smile never opened. My hands rose on their own. Love and horror share the same muscles. I reached for her cheek. The strands parted under my touch. Behind them no face, only a hole. Polished plates ground against each other. Coils pulsed like veins. A ribbon slithered like a tongue, lined with inward teeth. The stench of canal water filled the air, thick and rotten. The sound was worse, like brakes grinding against wet iron. It leaned toward my hands. I screamed. Something deeper inside me screamed too, something that remembered its name. And she froze, waiting. I whispered one word. No. No to my mother. No to Tokyo. No to the shed. No to mirrors. No to hair. She didn't move. I poured lighter fluid around the bed, around the pencil marks, and struck a match. Fire raced across the room. The hair shrieked as the futon burned, curtains curling into black flame. For one heartbeat, I was brave. The alarm wailed. Neighbors shouted. Smoke boiled through the walls. And then someone called my name. Ren. My mother stepped through the haze. Short hair, a sun-tired face. She touched my cheek. Her nails were neat, but they were made of hair. They pierced my skin like needles. She whispered, "We kept you safe as long as we could, but you are the thing at the foot of the bed, Ren." Behind her, my reflection rose in the firelight. It smiled the same smile. And then I understood. I was never running from her. I am her.